friends, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Hello. I feel like I haven't gotten the chance to say hello to you guys in a hot minute. I know that I filmed a video since the beginning of the year, like since January, so welcome back. Hello. Hi. Significantly darker hair than the last time that you saw me. We're gonna talk about some books and it's gonna be a super fun, amazing, great time. I'm so excited to talk about books. I haven't had to talk about books. How many more times can I say talk about books in one sentence? I mean, I haven't gotten the chance to do this in what feels like forever. It's been such a long time since I've gotten to like just sit down here with you and like tell you the books that I'm reading and what I think about them. Like traditionally on my channel, I post like monthly reading wrap-ups and that is just not gonna work for 2021, at least not thus far. I have not read nearly enough books this year to warrant any monthly wrap-ups. At least for now, do like recent reads, 5 at a time. We're not reading as much in 2021 as we had hoped, but that's okay. The first 5 books that I read this year that I'm gonna be talking about in this video, I don't know how many books I've read in total this year. I can tell you, I'm on Goodreads. Oh, I've read 11 books so far this year. I've done really, really well. I'm 4 books behind schedule. I love that for myself. Okay. The first 5 books that I read this year were Forever Wild. Wait, hold on. What side does it go on? I always point over here. Is this where it goes? Is this where I put the pictures? Why don't I know this? We're deciding on that side. If I'm editing and I hate it, I'm just going to complain about it and you'll never know. The first 5 books that we're going to be talking about from 2021 are Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker, How the Dukes Stole Christmas by Tessa Dare, The Baron Nightingale by Catherine Arden, Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and Well Met by Jen DeLuca, which is honestly a pretty good bunch of books to start the year off. Like I had quite a phenomenal start to this year. Better than I've had in most previous years for sure. I always start off the year, I think of like a joke. It's become a joke now with like a really crappy book or a book that ends up on my least favorites of the year list. So to start off this year with so many solid reads, I'm happy about that. And now I have to just remember what I thought of these books because I didn't write any Goodreads reviews. Like I mentioned, the first book I read this year was Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It's technically a novella. It's not technically a full-length book, but I remember it being quite lengthy and like had a pretty decent plot for a novella. This is a part of her Simple Wild series, which is a series that I have absolutely adored. They were my favorite books of last year. The first book is The Simple Wild and the second book is Wild at Heart. And then this is a little novella that takes place after Wild at Heart, following the 2 main characters, Calla and Jonah, and I can't tell you what they're doing because it would obviously spoil the series thus far, but it does take place over Christmas, over the holidays. It's in Alaska, so it's like super atmospheric with all the snow and the winter imagery. And I just remember really, really enjoying this novella. It may have just been a novella, but it really did give me everything that I wanted from following these 2 characters over Christmas time. There was a hair on my lip. Thought so. Felt that it had the perfect amount of Christmas imagery and winter imagery and Alaskan imagery, and it was just all so well balanced, and it was so just quintessential the Simple Wild series. It felt like it fit perfectly into this larger world that she's building, and I'm really excited for the 4th book that comes out. It doesn't follow Calla and Jonah, which I'm very sad about, but I am excited to delve more into the character that it is following and see what kind of romance is in store for her, because I think it's gonna be just as good, even though my loves won't be in it, although we better get some cameos from them or I'll be upset. All right, so the next book that I read in 2021 was another Christmas book. I read quite a few Christmas books after Christmas because why not? Who cares if you read them a week or 2 later? No one's gonna judge you but yourself. Like, read whatever the hell you want. How the Dukes Stole Christmas is actually 4 novella bind-up. Stories from Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean, Sophie Jordan, and Joanna Shoup. I remember that there were some in here that I liked much more than others. I believe that the first one by Tessa Dare was my favorite. Also, at least the first 3 are historical romance authors. So they wrote historical romance stories. And I really liked the historical Christmas vibes that we got in the first three. And then the third one was kind of the fourth one I think was kind of ambiguous in that I couldn't really figure out what time period we were taking place in. I wasn't really entirely sure. Okay, so I mentioned in my Goodreads review, because I did write one for this, that the first story and the third story were my favorites. So the ones by Tessa Dare and Sophie Jordan. I do remember Tessa Dare's being my favorite of the group. And the fourth was my least favorite, which is the one by Joanna Shupe. I do remember, I think that's the one that took place in like the office setting, between two coworkers, or between a boss and a employee. And I remember not loving that one quite as much. And I did make a note that, to be aware, all the characters end up together, which I thought was super unrealistic, because I mean, these stories are just a couple hundred pages, if that, like 100, maybe just slightly more. And they're taking place over hours, maybe a few days. Seemed a little far-fetched for me, but who am I to judge? You do you. If you feel like that compelled after knowing someone for a couple of hours, I applaud you. Question you, but I applaud you. I did have a really fun time reading this. It was a great Christmas read. It was a great romance Christmas read. If you're looking for like some short story romance Christmassy reads around the holidays, I really think that this would be a fun one to pick up. And I did listen to an audiobook, and I remember really enjoying the audiobook and thinking the narrator did a pretty great job. Oh, and I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. Did I mention that? I don't remember. Okay, so the first true novel that I read, I was feeling the wintry vibes. I was also working on a project back in January before life happened. I don't know if this project is still going to come to fruition, because it feels just way too far removed from the timely manner in which it should have been accomplished. Like, we're in April, about to be May, and it just doesn't seem appropriate to continue with this project. We can put it on hold for next year. It'll be fine. This was a part of that project. Still intend to continue with the series. And that is The Baron Nightingale by Catherine Arden, which is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And I was reading this because the third book in the series was on one of my really good friends, Sam from Thoughts on Tome's favorite books of the year. And I was like doing a project based on that. I did not get even into anywhere near the third book. So we're putting that on hold for next time. I liked this book enough to immediately request the second book from the library. This is an Eastern European inspired, Russian inspired folklore retelling, I guess. I don't really know much or anything at all about Eastern European or Russian folklore. We're following our main character, what is her name? Vasilisa. We follow her from the time of her birth up through like early adolescence, like maybe preteen age. And with each book, you follow her further into her life, where the 3 books in total give you an overarching story of her life. So the first book, we're really following her through her childhood and like early teens, I think. I don't know that it goes much beyond like 13-ish age range. And she is a very unique being in her world. She has like this really interesting relationship with nature and is like an extension of nature. I don't really know how to sum this up. It's such an interesting synopsis from Goodreads. So it mentions that her mother passes and her father goes to Moscow to wed a city-born woman, and the city-born woman is from a much more like structured religious society, like Catholicism versus like nature spiritual type of faith. And she forbids the household from engaging in any of the previous spiritual beliefs that they had. And this really bothers Vasilisa, and she really feels that there is going to be consequences for this. And so she embarks out on a journey to help save her village, save her people, save her house from these nature spirits that are becoming increasingly angry. I really enjoyed this. It wasn't like my favorite thing that I ever read, but I did enjoy it, like I said, enough to want to request the second book from the library. And I did start the second book, which is The Girl in the Tower, but I don't think I got very far into it. I never ended up finishing it because the library took it away, and then I just stopped reading. So I didn't finish the second book, but I'm gonna come back to it eventually. And I think I told you I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, the fourth book that I read this year is definitely my favorite book I think that I've read all year. It's the favorite of this bunch for sure, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. My people, good gracious, do not sleep on Legendborn. I know that this has been very hyped up all over the internet space for books, and people have been raving about it. It is for such an amazing reason. We read this for House Salt for January, and it was perfection. This was, I can't even express in words how much I loved this book. I listened to it on audiobook. We follow our main character, Bree, whose mom tragically passes away in a car accident, and it kind of sends her life into a spiral. And she ends up getting accepted to like an early college, early admissions program at the University of North Carolina. And so her and her best friend go there to pursue academic purposes. But while she's there, she gets roped into this secret society that is all based around the legend and the real life figures of King Arthur and the Round Table. So she's meeting people who are all descendants and from the lines of him and his knights. And ultimately it unlocks a special, unique magic within Bree, and it helps to unlock her memory of the night of her mom's death, because she doesn't remember anything from that night. I believe she was a witness of her mom's death, like she was with her at the time and she survived and her mother didn't, and she doesn't remember anything from the night. But meeting these people, joining this group, having her magic unlocked really opens her eyes to what happened the night her mom died and how that is all connected to this new world that she's a part of. And it is so good. It is so good. If you like shadow hunters, if you like, oh, I don't know, any freaking YA urban fantasy, this is far and above the best one that I've read. So beautifully tackles all of these issues about colonialism and racism and just like the institutional of it, the institutionalization of it in our history, in our education system, in our society, in our culture. It has so much to say. It's just so good. And I really recommend that you go and read this book. Like if there's any book in this video that I would tell you to go read, it would be this one. An entire like hour-long discussion about it on Sam's, at least on Sam's channel. I will link on the screen if you want to go watch, because we get really into it and we really all loved this book. And it was the first time that we all loved a book in House Salt. And the last book I'm going to talk about in this video is Well Met by Jen DeLuca, which is the first book in like this Renaissance romance series. Main character Emily's sister has a pretty tragic accident where she needs to be taken care of. So Emily moves back to this really small town to stay with her sister. She was kind of living a more like nomadic, unsettled lifestyle beforehand, and she takes care of her sister and her teenage niece. Her sister is like confined to bed rest. She can't participate in this annual Ren fair that the town puts on, but the niece really wants to be a part of it, and they need adults supervision to do it. And so Emily ends up volunteering in her sister's stead. She gets cast as a tavern wench, and in this Ren fair, her romantic interest is a pirate who's a teacher at the school that her niece goes to. And in real life, the teacher and Emily do not get along. In the Ren fair, they're having a little romance. So it's like romance by Ren fair and hatred by regular day life. Throughout the course of the book, obviously, it's enemies to lovers, or it's like hate to love, my like absolute favorite romance trope. They start to soften to each other, but this was so much fun. I really enjoyed this. It gets talked about a lot for a reason. It's a really fun romance, and the characters are really likable and they're really easy to root for. I thought that their relationship was really sweet and easy to root for. I loved all like the side characters. I know that there are 2 sequels in this series and I haven't read either of them yet. And I know the second one isn't as well received as the first, but I'm still gonna keep reading because I really did enjoy these characters. There's a lot of side characters from the fair too that like have larger than life personalities that I can't wait to see get like their own stories. One of them in particular is this guy who plays like the Scottish rogue or something, I don't know. I really enjoyed this book and I can't wait to read the other ones in the series. And I would say it's definitely like one of the romance books that I would most freely recommend out of all the ones that I've read. Like this is definitely up there in like my feelings of being a favorite. I really did enjoy that. And those are the first 5 books that I've read in 2021. I would love to know if you've read any of these books. Please tell me in the comments down below so we can talk about them and discuss them. Like, what other things have you guys been reading this year? Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for still being here after me being incredibly unreliable with uploading and just like ghosting for so many months. I really appreciate that you're here to watch this video and to hang out with me. I hope that you continue to stick around. I hope, I always say this I say this every time that I come back for like a one-off video, but I really do hope that this means that I can more fully commit my time back to YouTube, because I do love it, and for a long time I just haven't been able to do it. And I really hope that this means we're in a better place and we can continue this friendship that we have. You can come hang out with me on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!